tangentially by University of Maryland college students who became aware of the issues of food insecurity on their college campus. So a couple of the students, the co-founders of Food Recovery Network, they were on their college campus doing a lot of activities that we normally do as college students, trying to make an impact by putting together sandwiches and doing hunger relief events. But they felt like there was something else that they could do. They, being regular college students at the dining halls at University of Maryland, they saw a lot of food that actually hadn't been sold that night being thrown away. And, that kind of that image kept coming back to them, day after day. At the same time, another University of Maryland college student was working as an internship with Health Leads, supporting families to combat some of the issues that they had around finding housing, finding jobs, healthcare. And also, she realized a lot of those same people were having issues with food insecurity. So lo and behold, Food Recovery Network was born. And what we do is we combine three different areas. Awareness of the problem. We recognize that hunger is an issue in America. 1 in 6 Americans is food insecure. And also on college campuses, we have a couple of other resources. We have labor, which is college students who want to make an impact, and the understanding that they can do something better. So what the Food Recovery Network does is it combines all of those things. Excuse me 1 second, Lori. So what Food Recovery Network does is we empower students across the country to create a relationship with their dining hall service providers. We also empower students to go out into their communities and partner with hunger fighting partner agencies in their area. We coach them throughout the process to actually package up the surplus food from the dining halls, bring it into their vehicles, and then they go to the hunger fighting partner agencies and donate that food. It's an incredible method to solving one of the biggest problems that we have in America, as I said. And so far, we've been able to make huge strides around food recovery. And in so many ways, as I mentioned before, with the unique ecosystem that is a college university campus. So our students are building relationships with their dining service providers. They are learning about leadership while they are creating their volunteer group to recover the food day after day. We have so many wonderful stories of students who have been able to recover thousands and thousands of pounds of food. And in fact, in November of this year, we were able to recover 1 million pounds of food from across the country. It's been an incredible endeavor for us. So when we started at Food Recovery Network, as I mentioned, University of Maryland, we were on one college campus. And the way that it spread across the country is the co-founders of Food Recovery Network contacted their friend at Brown University, and they said, yes, we want to do this as well. Then they contacted friends at other places across the country, other fellow college students. And over the years, Food Recovery Network has been able to expand because once people understand the concept of all the food that's being thrown away, and I'm sure many of you know this concept of 40% of food produced in America is thrown away. And it goes into our landfills, and it causes a lot of environmental harm. It creates methane gas, which is a really powerful greenhouse gas. When people understand that concept of we have all this food that is perfectly great food, and we have 1 in 6 people in our country who are hungry, these are 2 ships that are passing in the night that we can definitely combine and do something about this. So as of today, we are actually, when I sent Christy these slides, we were at 167 chapters, and I'm happy to report that we are now in 170 chapters across the country, and we are in 40 states. And really quick, I just had a poll to see from the audience, and I wonder if Christy, you could pull up the poll.
If you know, showing up right now.
Oh, wonderful. If you know, if your school has a Food Recovery Network chapter. And we are actually getting...
Up here, I'll close the poll right now.
Oh, great.
And share the results. And so 31% said yes, 31% said no, and 38% are unsure.
Great. Well, I'm so excited to hear that. For all the folks who know that they're where they went to college or university has an FRN chapter, that's amazing. And if you're interested, we can definitely let you know how many pounds of food your particular chapter has recovered. And for the folks who said they weren't sure, and for the folks who said no, they definitely know that there's not a Food Recovery Network chapter on their college campus where they went to school, we can do something about that. We can definitely empower students to create a chapter on their college campus. And so I would love to just maybe share a quick story about the actual model with Food Recovery Network at the University of Maryland, our flagship chapter. We recovered thousands and thousands of pounds of food at UMD, and it's wonderful because since we have been around since 2011 in that particular school, the students there recover 5 days a week, and they recover from 2 dining halls. And that's been tremendous growth. So when we first started, actually the first thing that our co-founders, Mia, Ben, and Cam, heard was, no, why would you do this? Why would you recover food? We have to throw this away. But they didn't take no for an answer. And actually in 1996, the Bill Emerson Good Samaritan Act was passed, which said that if you donate food in good faith, you cannot be sued. And so we were able to leverage that law that was passed to help move forward with the mission of Food Recovery Network. And so to this day, the students now, as I mentioned, recover food 5 days a week. And how they do that is one student group every day of the week is responsible for the food recovery. So one day it's the drama team, another day it's the soccer club, another day it's a fraternity. And that's how they were able to put their system together. And also now the University of Maryland supports the chapter on our college campus by, before where students used to use their own vehicles to take the food to their hunger fighting partner agency, the school now has them, allows them to use their shuttle van and actually transports the students all together and the food to their hunger fighting partner agency. So it's a wonderful display of support from the University of Maryland, and that kind of support is something that we have seen in other chapters across the country as well. And when I was talking about before the ecosystem that is on the college and universities, there is a large voice across the country of thousands and thousands and thousands of millennials who are saying, hey, this isn't what we want to see happen with surplus food. There's a new day. And so we are changing that dialogue from food waste, that once you are done with a meal on a college campus, all of that leftover nutritious food gets thrown away. Our students are saying, no, we want to do something different about that. And so we've really been able to harness and leverage the power and energy of college students across the country to really make that shift in our paradigm of what we do with surplus food. And so this is a picture of just some of the students who are active with Food Recovery Network from across the country at one of our events that we co-hosted last year. And also, the one thing that I find really amazing about Food Recovery Network is not only are we able to take all that energy from students who are desire to do something better within their communities, we are also able to learn from those college students. And they kept coming to us time and time again saying, you know, is there something that we can do to help support restaurants to also recover their food? And so we started Food Recovery Certified as the only program in the country that acts to showcase the restaurants in our communities that actually recover their surplus food and donate it as well. And it's been a wonderful program for us, and we hope that more and more restaurants are able to come on and become certified. So we also certify not only restaurants, but we also certify events. You know, if you have an event that features food in your community, you can become certified and tell the world that you are putting that surplus food to good use and not throwing it away. So that's our Food Recovery Certified program. And this is just a small example of some of the organizations across the country who have, you know, who donate their surplus food. They have some pretty big names here. And this is actually a picture of a coffee bean company that they donate their surplus coffee beans. So we've been able to take the knowledge that we've seen within the network and provide even more support in changing the dialogue from food waste to food recovery. And I look forward to answering everyone's questions about our model, about how to get a food recovery network chapter started on your college campus, and any stories or other things that we've learned along the way. So thank you all for spending your morning with me, and I can't wait to hear the other presentation as well.
Thank you so much, Regina. That was great. And I do want to just remind the attendees that if you have any questions for our panelists, please use there's a question box in your GoToWebinar control panel that you can use to post questions, and we will collect all those up during the presentation and then share them with our panelists afterwards. So feel free to ask those throughout the presentation, and then we will get to them at the end of this next presentation from Nima. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Nima, and I will advance your slides as you tell me to.
Hello, this is Nima from City of Tacoma Park, and one of the projects that I manage in the city is the food waste collection program. And in this presentation, I'm going to talk about how we set up the program and what's the status of the program right now. Can we go to the next slide, please? This is my agenda item for today. I'm going to talk about where Tacoma Park is and give a brief about how the program started and provide a status on where we are right now. Can we go to the next slide, please? So this is a location map for City of Tacoma Park. We are located within very close to Washington, D.C., Prince George County, and Montgomery County. The area of the city is 2.4 square miles, and the total population is 16,715, according to the Census 2010. We have altogether 7,000 housing units, which includes both rental and single-family homes. The city provides curbside collection to 3,300 homes, and we even provide a collection to multifamily that are less than 12 units. I have a mistake in my slide, I can see. So we provide food waste collection even to the multifamily properties that are less than 12 units. Can we go to the next slide, please? This is a general graph of our waste management before we implemented the food waste collection program in the city. The graph is for the fiscal year 2012. What we did, as you see on the graph, the 33% of our overall waste is yard waste, and 23% is recycling, and 44% is solid waste. We the good thing was that we were diverting 56% of our total waste stream through recycling and yard waste collection. So by yard waste, what the data that's included is the fall vacuum leaf collection, which takes place 5 weeks every year, from just a week before Thanksgiving and before Christmas, and also the weekly collection of grass and leaves and branches that we do every week. So, and can you please go to the next slide? This slide tells you that we started the food waste collection program as a pilot program on February of 2013. What we did is like we targeted 2 neighborhoods which had a high recycling rate, and we look for contractor to do both the jobs. Like we did not use our own sanitation team, and the participation for the program was voluntary. Can we go to the next slide, please? So the 2 areas that I talked about before are highlighted in blue and pink in the map. The blue is the area 1 where we targeted 260 homes, and out of them only 65 homes participated in the program. And what we did is like the collection took place on the same day as their trash and recycling collection. For the area 2, we collected the food waste on the same day as their yard waste collection, and we targeted around 850 homes, and only 300 homes participated in the program. The collection was done again by a private hauler, the Compost crew. So this is how we started the pilot phase. Can you please go to the next slide? So what we did is we mailed out a letter initially to all the homes in both the pilot area. The letter that you see on your left is the initial letter that we sent out to all homeowners, asking them to participate, and they could call us or leave an email in my mailbox saying that we want to participate. And after we sent out the letter, we again, in the middle of the program, we asked more people to sign in to a postcard that you see on your right. So we mailed this postcard like 2 or 3 times, hoping that we'll get more folks. So that was our main recruitment process that we use for our pilot program. Can we go to the next slide, please? So right now, our whole what we do is like currently people participate on the program through our city website. The form that you see on your right is the registration form that's in our website. So people just go there and put their full name, their email address, their street address, and the day of the trash collection. So that's the information that they put in on their to sign up. So what I get is like I get an email saying that the people has registered, and I enter that household address in our collection database, and that goes to our sanitation crew who does the collection. So this is how we recruit the participants. Can we go to the next slide, please? So every household that signs up for a program receives a 5-gallon bucket with a screw top, which is airtight lid, and they get a 6-month supply of compostable liners, and we provide them instructional information about where to put their food waste and what day is their collection. And all this information is in our website. And as you can see in the table below, these are the items that we collect. We collect everything that people consume, both meat, fish, dairy, and we even collect paper products like pizza boxes and chopsticks and popsicle sticks. So we collect almost everything. Whatever is in the table, that you serve, we collect that. So that has been our program model, collecting everything. Can we go to the next slide, please? So what happens is on the collection days, the residents put their food waste out on a bucket on the curbside. Our sanitation crew empties the bucket, and then we take it to the composting facility. That's what's happened. This is the collection process that happens every week. Can we go to the next slide, please? So after the pilot program ends, what we did is, we got a lot of requests from people who wanted to sign up for the program in other part of the city. So we expanded the program throughout the city on August of 2014. We notified residents about the program through an article in newsletter, through our Facebook and our web page. And even through our weekly e-news that we send out to all the residents and pen list. And the other thing that we did throughout our pilot program is we did an online survey through SurveyMonkey. The survey had numerous questions and we even asked people about how we can improve the program. So, and in the next slide also, the major items that the comment that we received from the survey. Can we go to the next slide, please? So after we sent out the survey, most of the residents stated that they did put out the food waste container weekly. And the two important items that was highlighted in almost every survey that we sent out is they have less trash as a result of the food waste collection program. The other thing that came up regularly on the comment section is what improvement can we make? Is people wanted the food waste collection on the same day as trash and recycling collection, so that they don't have they can put everything together and on the curb on the same day. So those three were the major the comments that we received all the time. So can we go to the next slide? Yeah. So after this survey and our pilot phase, with the current food waste status, we are collecting from approximately 1,500 households right now. The participation is still voluntary. People go on to our website and sign up for the program online, and food waste is collected. Now we do not have a contractor. We collect everything by our in-house sanitation crew. And based on the response that we received from survey, we moved the collection day we made our food waste collection day on the same day as trash and recycling. What we do is we communicate with all the households that are participating via a MailChimp account and we collect their email and send a MailChimp update once in 2 months or in 45 days. And the other promotion that we do is every household that are in the program receives a finished compost, which is a good soil amendment in early spring and early fall. So that's what we've been doing to promote the program. Can we go to the next slide, please? So this is the example of the MailChimp that we send out almost this is how we communicate. We give them an update. We give them an update on schedule change, and information about free compost when they can come and pick it up from Public Works. So this is our one of the promotion materials. Can we go to the next slide, please? Let's look. I mean, this is a graph that tells us how our waste database changed from 2012. So as you can see, in 2013, when we are still in the pilot phase, the amount of food waste collected was 29 tons, which is quite, the graph, as you can see, is still in 0%, which is very insignificant. It's very small number. In FY 2014, I mean, when we expanded the program, we had more participants. So we started collecting 110 tons of food waste annually. And so in FY15, we collected 183 tons, which is around 3% of our total waste total waste of the city. So as you can see, from FY13 to 15, there is a reduction in trash, and we are collecting more food waste. So this is just an evaluation where we are right now. Can we go to the next slide, please? So to give you a number on what the average weight per household is, we are collecting 13 pounds per house per week, and which is like this data is from 2014, so it varies sometime from 13 to 11 pounds per week. So it's between that number. The average set out rate is 70%. The percentage of households participating throughout the city is 45%. And when we compare to other collection, we collect around 39 pounds per household per week amount of trash, and we collect 18 pounds of recycling per week, and the yard waste is 26 pounds per week. That's just throwing out the numbers so that everybody knows what's going on in the city. Can we go to the next slide, please? So when we evaluate our program and look at where we want to be, we did just set out a goal. Our goal is to increase our participation rate to 55% by 2017, by December of next year. Right now we are 1,500 households. We want to have around 1,800 households participating by December 2017, which will be around 280 tons of food waste per year. We want to achieve this goal through public outreach, and we will ask people for suggestions on how to improve the program. That will be our main action to increase the participation and meet our goal. Can we go to the next slide, please? So the other item that we want to move ahead and explore is to explore options for businesses, institutions, and multifamily, because the program for the city is right now we have the program we have is only for single family household. So we would like to explore that options, but but in the northeast location we are limited because of the lack of processing facility. Right now we take our food waste to a PZ County collection site, and that's the only site that collects food waste in the whole northeast region. There was one facility in Delaware which was managed by Waste Management that got closed, and I mean that's the only processing facility that we have in this area. So we would like, the city of our scale would like to see some more of this processing facility opening up in this area. So we have some options to take our food waste to other locations. That's what we would like to advocate for. I mean, I hope MD or EPA, if anybody is attending this seminar, can maybe maybe working on this or something like that. That's what we want to see in this area, and that's pretty much it for me. And if you have any questions, do I mean, I'll be happy to answer them. Thank you. Hey, Christy.
Thank you so much, Nima. We've been collecting your questions, and both for Regina and Nima, and I will turn it over to Yona Sipos, has been collecting your questions. And Yona, if you could share those questions that the attendees have asked with Regina and Nima, both Regina and Nima, we'll just open it up to both of you to answer as it makes sense.
Great. Okay, I'll just start in the order that we received the questions. Linda was asking if Regina, could you please repeat how much food waste FRN has diverted?
Oh yes, I'm proud to say that since November 2015, we've diverted over 1 million pounds of food. So today it's about 1.1 million pounds.
Wow. And Regina, I'll just continue with some questions directed towards you. Another question was, what specifically does FRN do to help potential new chapters get started, and how do you support them once they do get started? That was a question from Thomas.
A wonderful question, Thomas. So we provide a lot of support to our applicants who want to start a Food Recovery Network chapter. We actually have weekly calls with them to support them through a step-by-step process. We've realized over time that to have the strongest official chapter, it's helpful to have a few things in place first. And so we work weekly with the students to achieve that relationship with their dining service providers, because so we need to get their approval to make sure that it's food. We ask that they go out into the community and find that hunger fighting partner agency where they can actually donate the food. And there are a few requirements for that. You know, we need to make sure that the hunger fighting partner agency is able to safely store the food. We actually provide food safety training to our applicants so that they know how to check the temperature of the food when they recover it. When they transport it over to the Hunger Fighting Partner Agency, they take the temperature again, just as an example of some of the ways that we train on how to handle food safely. We support the students getting a leadership team, because, you know, if you're a senior or a junior and you want to start a chapter, if you go study abroad and once you graduate, we want to make sure that there are people on your leadership team who can then take over the reins so that we don't have a break in recovery from that particular chapter. And then once the chapter becomes official, you know, we help support them in going on to recovery. And then once they become official, we continue with that relationship building, that coaching, and that mentoring with monthly calls to make sure that things are going smoothly. Because we say there is no typical recovery. There are all kinds of things that might come up. Once students really get into the groove, as you say, of recovering food, they might want to expand to another dining hall on their college campus. They might want to go out into the community and start recovering from restaurants. They might want to put on events to help raise awareness around food insecurity or the impact of wasted food on the environment. So we support them in all of those ways to strengthen their voice in the movement.
That's wonderful. Thank you. I'll just keep reading out the questions. There's just a couple more for Regina specifically, and then to Nima's questions. John asked, actually this is a question for either of you, is Regina or Nima familiar with a group called Lean Path? They have a system of working with restaurants and other food service providers to educate and assist these providers to implement food waste reduction practices within their service group, starting with an emphasis on reduction. So the organization, once again, the group was called Lean Path.
Yes, we're very familiar with Lean Path at Food Recovery Network.
Okay, great.
I am not. Sorry about that.
Okay, no, it sounds like that's a great organization to check out for everyone who's interested in food reduction, or food waste reduction, rather. Okay, and then a question from Cheryl for Regina. Community Food Rescue is thrilled to partner with FRC. Do you have other certification partners in the U.S.?
So when we say certification partners, do we mean with the Food Recovery Certified or partners? I'm not quite sure I know what we mean when we say certified.
I'm not sure. Maybe, Cheryl, if you get a chance, maybe you can type in a little more information about that question, and for now we can just, we'll move forward if that's okay?
Yeah, definitely. And I will say, I mean, with our programs, you know, we are always, I mean, looking to partner with other organizations to help expand the voice of the movement, to change that dialogue from food waste to food recovery. And, you know, our emphasis is on empowering college students. So any way that we can do that, we really love partnering. Collaboration is one of our core values at Food Recovery Network. And with Food Recovery Certified, excuse me, we love to support restaurants, businesses, events, as I said, to support them through the process of becoming certified so that we can amplify that voice and let everybody know these are organizations, businesses that care and want to make sure that they're doing the right thing with their surplus food.
Great. Okay. Hopefully, Cheryl, that was a good response that answered your question. Neoma had a question about the cost to the college of participating in FRN.
Yeah, that's a great question. We actually support college students in creating chapters. So there are materials that students need to recover food, and that is those reusable containers, or as they become, you know, once they become official, they usually get reusable containers. And we provide grants to all the chapters to get those materials that they need: scales, the thermometers to check the temperature. We don't want this to be a cost for the student. And once the chapters become official, we want the chapters to be an officially recognized club on their college campuses. And whether that is a freestanding food recovery chapter that's a club on the college campus, or sometimes it's clustered under another officially recognized club, like an environmental club, for example, then typically that means the college or university will provide some funding to an official club, and we help support students in harnessing that financial support that their colleges and universities can provide. But we tend to give a lot of grants to our chapters, so for those materials that I just mentioned, but also we do have a big conference coming up in April, and we provide travel stipends to our students so that they can participate in that. We're hoping to bring together 400 students and leaders within the food recovery movement to come together, share resources, share knowledge, really roll up their sleeves, and get some other solutions and tools for recovering more food.
Wow, that sounds like an excellent opportunity for further involvement as well for our attendees. Yeah. And Cheryl, I just wanted to point out here that Cheryl clarified in the question section that I think she was noting that Community Food Rescue co-brand certification with FRC. And so just to follow up with that, the earlier question.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I thought you meant, Cheryl. So right now, you guys are the only organization, and like I said, we are always looking for other organizations who are also interested in doing that co-branding. It's a really important, we think, method for recovering more food and getting businesses to do the right thing.
Wonderful, great. I'm going to move us to some questions for Nima. And the questions keep coming in, which is really great. There's obviously a lot to discuss in this topic. So there were a number of questions about where the compost that's collected in Tacoma Park goes to get processed. And I know, Nima, that you mentioned it goes to Prince George's County currently. Heather asked a follow-up question. What happens when the Prince George's County facility stops accepting drop-offs, as has happened recently? And then I'll just add to that, Nima, there was another question from Cheryl saying that she understood that the collected food waste does not go to Montgomery County, and that the Montgomery County Food Council is trying to encourage the county to create in-county composting facilities. Is Tacoma Park advocating for commercial composting like veterans composting in the county? So just a couple of questions there about where and how the composting is actually happening.
If PZ County closes the facility, we are like, I mean, I should not, we are in trouble. We will be in big trouble because that's the only facility that collects everything, including meat, dairy, and that's the only facility in this area. The other thing that we've done recently is like reach out to Veteran Compost and see if they could, if something like that happened, if they could accommodate some of our food waste. And it's been good talking to Justin, and we looked at a site in Virginia. So I think we'll work out a backup plan with him. That's our goal. So I mean, yeah, and for the question regarding Montgomery, we would advocate for Montgomery County to start their own composting facility because I think there's a demand. I think the lack of facility in this area is holding municipality back from introducing the program. So, I mean, we definitely want Montgomery County to start its own program, like composting program.
Great. Neil had a question. How does Tacoma Park recover the additional cost for this program? You mentioned that they provide finished compost to participants, but do they also sell some of the compost that's created?
The good thing about us is like our city council has been big on sustainability efforts. So we were looking at our waste management waste numbers for a long time, and the next thing that came up was food waste collection. So when we went out and asked our council an additional fund to introduce the program, the council granted us that funding. So I mean, the fund is coming from our sustainability plot. It was the budget for the fund is around 80 grants per year, and we do not sell out our compost. We buy it from the PZ facility, and there's a small quota of how much we give out. We give out 5 buckets of compost to each resident, so it's not much. And what the hope is like, once the program is up and running and we have more households signing up, we believe the tipping fee for the trash is like the tipping fee is going to be reduced because we will see reduction in trash, and that's going to be and the food waste is going to be funded through the same budget. For now, definitely the money has to be allocated because the program is new and we want to do more outreach. I think in future we hope that the cost is going to be like cover from our. I mean, we want, once we have more participants, we believe that the cost is not going to be high as what we have now. Great.
Just a follow-up question about the finished compost. I think it was Susan who asked, what percentage of the participants, do you have any data on what percentage of the participants take advantage of the finished compost, and what do they typically use it for?
The good thing is, I mean, if you're aware or not, the city has a Safe Grow law, which one of the projects that I manage. I mean, the Safe Grow law is like it prevents the use of pesticide for cosmetics used in the lawn care. So what we did is like we asked the finished compost is very good for good lawn care amendment. So that's how we promoted the program. Like, I mean, most of the people, I think most of the residents who are participating in the program are taking advantage of the free compost, and they use, and the use has been for lawn care. That's what they've been, like for the vegetable garden or for lawn care. That's what they are doing.
Great. When you were talking, Nima, about expanding the program over the last couple of years, can you speak to the additional resources, for example, the labor and the trucks that were needed to expand the program? That was a question from John.
The good thing about the labor and resources, like when we were starting out, we used a private company, and we were paying them, I think, $3 per week per household, $3 per week per household for the food waste collection and hauling. That's what we are paying them. And now what we did is like we moved the program when we expanded the program, we brought the program in-house because we could use our dump truck to collect the food waste. Because the amount of food waste that we're collecting per day is less than 2 tons most of the time, less than a ton sometimes, depending on how many households are participating in every route. So we've been using a small dump truck, and we've been going out to facility every 4 times a week. So we did not have to buy a additional truck. We got the truck from our right-of-way team. So one of the trucks that right-of-way were using, we borrowed that truck for our food waste collection, and that's what we've been doing. So we've been, maybe when we have more households signing up and the amount of food waste is higher, then we might have to think about buying a truck. But now we're good at that stage. The cost wasn't much, and a good thing, the cost, I would say the cost decreased because we could use the same sanitation guys to do the collection. We didn't have to go out and pay the contractor to do the collection.
Mm-hmm.
So
okay.
one thing I think I'll add is we did hire a new sanitation crew, a sanitation guy who was specific for this food waste collection. But the cost, when we compare, is lower than going out and hiring a private collector.
Uh-huh. Okay, great. A couple more questions for Nima, and then we'll go back to Regina. Mike had a question, Nima. Has Tacoma Park had any trouble with contamination, for example, plastics, in your collected food waste? And if so, how have you dealt with it?
We've been very lucky, I would say. We've been very, very lucky. No problem of contamination, because I think the people who are signed, it's a voluntary program, so the people who sign up for the program are very much enthusiastic about food waste. So we haven't had that problem, and I hope in future, finger crossed, we don't have that issue at all. No problem regarding that.
Okay, great. And just the last question for you, Nima, is actually a couple of questions that I'm just putting together. Thomas and Linda were wondering about, I think, alternatives to what currently exists. Thomas asked if you've considered advocating for an anaerobic digester for the community instead of just composting. And Linda asked if Tacoma Park has any public land that could be used for community composting projects.
The reason the first map that I had, the location map that I showed in my first or second slide was because I could see how urbanized the city is. The city doesn't have any public open land, and we are very urbanized. So I mean, we like to do some research and read about it before I can answer that. We haven't explored that option yet, but I would definitely like to do some research on that and see about it. So for now.
Okay, that's great. And just to go back to Regina for a couple of other questions that came in, Tara was asking Regina if, after reviewing the amount of food that you recovered, has it impacted the amount that you purchase or changed your purchases?
That's a really great question, and yes, it has, in fact. And that's part of the close relationship that our students develop with their dining service managers. It's really eye-opening a lot of times for the dining manager to realize, wow, we are really over-purchasing. And, our goal is to cut down on surplus food, and actually the EPA and USDA, I'm not sure if you've seen the inverted triangle that they have of methods to how to combat surplus food, and the very first thing that they say is try to reduce waste in the first place. So we have seen across the country dining service providers reduce their food once they have a good understanding of where they are trending in over purchases. Now it's it's difficult sometimes when you deal with humans that well, for some reason our typical order of baked chicken just didn't sell this week, and we can't always factor in those things, but we have been able to provide savings to our dining service providers across the network, and on average we're estimating around $5,000.
Wow, that's wonderful. So I'm just looking. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Oh, I just said I agree.
Yes, I'm sure everybody does. Yes. So I'm just looking at the time, and I'm realizing that even though we have some more questions, unfortunately we're going to have to wrap up. But we will provide the unanswered questions to the panelists, and we'll ask them to answer them, and hopefully we'll get those out to you. And I just wanted to share one final comment from Hallie, who said that she was lucky enough to attend the Creating a Maryland Food Charter Conference, and large-scale and accessible composting facilities, and I think by extension, food waste reduction strategies were discussed as a main priority. And so just expressing hope that this will make it into the charter and become a tangible reality, and that the good work of these two presenters and their organizations will continue to grow and to spread. And so with that, I'll pass it back to Christy to wrap up. Thank you so much, everyone, for your great questions.
Yona, that was, thanks for handling those questions, really rich questions. And Nima, Regina, thank you very much for the wonderful presentations, all the great work that you both are doing. Wanted to, as I mentioned at the beginning, we really want this to be a first place for learning, and then we are offering next steps for ways that you can continue to engage. The waste recovery work group for the Chesapeake Foodshed Network is hosting a conference call on February 5th at 8:30 in the morning. The call-in information is here. We will share that with you in a follow-up email as well. But we want to provide a place to continue the conversation and get a better sense of what sort of information you all are looking for, so that we can best address your needs through things like these coffee talks and other activities. Also want to share that EPA is hosting a webinar on innovative collaborations in the hospitality sector to increase food recovery, and that's February 25th at 1 p.m. If you want to learn more about what NEMA is doing in Tacoma Park, please visit their website. The URL is there, but we will also share all of this information regarding next steps in a follow-up email. And as Regina mentioned earlier, please try to attend the National Food Recovery Dialogue at the University of Maryland in College Park on April 2nd through the 4th. So sounds like it's going to be a large gathering and a really good opportunity to connect with others doing similar work. So again, thank you all. We will follow up in an email with the recording to this webinar, as well as work with our panelists to answer any of your unanswered questions, and we'll provide you links to the next steps that I just mentioned. If you are interested in hosting a coffee talk, feel free to contact me. We want to encourage you to use the Coffee Talk platform to engage with a broader audience. And please join us February 9th, when we're going to hear from Kate Clancy about why a regional approach for food system work is important and how you can incorporate that into your work. Thank you all very much for attending. I hope that you have a wonderful day and be safe on the roads and have fun in the snow. Take care.